Mickey, call you guys Bill and Howell.
You know this is going to be like the Mickey show.
Okay. Mickey's right in the middle. Okay, folks, we'll start the meeting with roll call.
Okey doke. Delaware County, Mr. Early is excused. Lou Jones.
Yes, sir.
Matt Delmeter.
Here.
Steve Hood.
Yep.
Fulton County, Bonnie Lumen.
Here.
Jack Farquhar.
Here.
Howard Heim.
Here.
Don Coy.
There.
Gold star for Fulton County. Hamlin County, Cindy Dunham is excused. Joyce Malidi.
Here.
Bill Malidi, present. Al Dunham.
Here.
Gary Wicks.
Here.
Huh? Pretty close to a gold star for us. Montgomery County, Tom Pasquarelli.
Here.
Mickey Swartz.
Here.
Trish Green is excused. Jared Gilson is working. Otsego County, Sid Chase.
Here.
Ryan Knapp. Okay, he's probably working. Dave Markowitz.
Here.
Dana Wygand is excused. Richard Kirschman.
Here.
Schoharie County, none present. Mark Zeke is excused. Dr. Leinhardt.
Here.
Sir, we have a quorum.
Okay, welcome everyone. Everyone got a copy of our minutes from our last month's meeting? We need a motion to approve.
So moved.
What was that?
Made.
What was that, Howard?
Second. Second, please.
Okay, all right, good.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the minutes from last month's meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstained? Okay, we have guests.
Oh, we have a whole bunch of guests today. We have Howard Youth and Deb Cuffs from SUNY Cobleskill and HVCC respectively. We have Beth McGowan from CMT, Bonnie Bertman from JVAC, Mary Raymer and Joe Farrell. Where are they from? Somebody tell me.
The dark side.
The dark side, close enough. Jill Dunham from ASFC, Tony Agresta from the Amsterdam Fire Department, Mark Hitchcock from FMCC, of course, sponsor representative. And welcome, Mark. Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And let's see who else we got. Andy Cuccinello from Schoharie County is here. Andy, welcome.
Oh, thanks.
Did I leave anybody out? Didn't mean to. Okay.
Okay, welcome everyone. Correspondence, y'all got a copy of the correspondence?
Got a fair quantity of correspondence this time.
Quite a bit. I don't really have a chairman's report. We're in the secretary report.
All right.
Moving on.
Okay. On December 22nd, Tom Pasquarelli advised me that the December 20th meeting minutes omitted an action taken during the training committee report, and I reviewed the meeting video, and he was right and I was wrong. I left them out. So the corrected minutes were sent out on December 24th to all the original recipients with an explanation. I have some confusion about the Department of Health policy. Hard to believe that I would have a confusion about the any of the Department of Health policy on supplying VLS first responder agencies with PCRs. Some have told me that it's okay for them to get the PCRs, some of the agencies, and the DOH, last I inquired, said we preferred that you not send PCRs as a savings measure to the VLS first responder agency. So what is the present policy? I asked our representatives.
I haven't got a clue.
Okay.
I actually asked Lee about this from a question that Rima raised.
Okay.
They are okay to get them now. It was when we had the shortage and we were in between orders.
Okay. All righty. Very good. Thank you kindly. On January 11th, we received word from Tom Bahana at the Department of Health that there currently was no contract with FedCap, the State Key Punch Center for paper PCRs, but one was expected in the near future. In the meantime, all regions are to hold their paper PCRs until notified by the Department of Health. So we're still collecting them and we're still screening them. There's our little old screener sitting over there right next to Mr. Farquhar and Ms. Dunham. But we can't send them on to anybody because there ain't nobody to send them to currently. Okay. On January 15th, Joe Farrell advised us that the annual EMS Memorial Service has been set for Tuesday, May 21st at 11 a.m. and further details undoubtedly will be forthcoming. He's not here now, but and I think everybody who is here presently was here when he left. Dr. Duthaler is leaving Nathan Latour Hospital. Today was his last REMAC meeting with us, regrettably. And we applauded his service for us and thanked him and made sure that he knew he was always welcome with us. But he is moving back to the Saratoga area as far as the practice of medicine is concerned. And I've been advised that the legislation that everybody is talking about, not just sportsmen but everybody else, the legislation on gun laws, contains an element that deals with people who kill first responders. It's now an automatic life sentence with no possibility of parole. As soon as I get a copy of that law, and it's regrettably very hard to get a copy of the actual wording of that law. I've been trying the last couple of days. As soon as I get a copy of it, I will send it as an email attachment to everybody present.
That was what was commonly referred to as Mark's Law,
Mark's Law from up in Cape Vincent.
when Mark Davis was shot.
Cape Vincent.
Webster law.
Yeah, now it's called Webster.
Yeah, now it's
Well,
called
Webster
Webster,
law now,
but
yeah.
we've been working on that piece of legislation to try to get it passed for the past 2 years on the, and it's now made it through as part of the gun legislation.
Notice of enforcement actions have been received. They haven't been received. This is 2 months in a row that everybody has been behaving themselves, or we just haven't heard about it. Well, okay. I'll leave that as an open-ended question. That, sir, is my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Treasurer's report?
Treasurer's report. Everybody has a copy of the cash flow and balance sheet. In addition, Lou and Howard and Sid received the detailed cash flow, balance sheet, and register reports, plus copies of the canceled checks as per the review arrangements, and they reported.
Everything is okay.
Kindly. Now the saga of voucher payments. Let me take a moment. On January 7th, we forwarded to Lisa DeLong at the Department of Health the council deliverables for the period from October the 1st through December 31st, together with a voucher for $53.20.36. The same date, we forwarded her the program agency deliverables for the same period, with a voucher for $29,644.51. We had contacted her on January 3rd and 4th to inquire about the status of our past due payment. That was a voucher dated September 30th for $58.26.36 for the council deliverables for the previous quarter from July through September. On January the 8th, Lisa advised us that BOH was waiting the release of further funds to make this payment. This always puzzles me because those funds were allocated and appropriated in the annual budget last April the 1st, but what am I to know? On January 12th, we received a check for $58.40.93. This is the council payment of $58.26.36, plus a late payment of $14.57. I hope we don't spend it all foolishly. As of January the 12th, we are now currently up to date on payments owed by the Department of Health. And Lisa and Lee and Dan Clayton, who is now the Deputy Director of Operations, by the way, and Tom Behana, they have worked very hard on our behalf. Who they deal with, apparently I'm not that easy to work with. I don't know who they deal with, but I don't know that I want to know, to be honest with you. But they have worked very hard on behalf of the councils and the regional program agencies to get timely payments. And I cannot, for the life of me, understand why the payments are so untimely. There are a number of our colleagues around the state who have not yet received their money from September 30th. A number. That, sir, is my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Need a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
I'm sorry, who was that? Don, okay.
Second? Sir?
Al seconds it.
Al. Motion been made and seconded to accept the treasurer's report as presented. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstained?
Joyce and I will abstain as staff members.
Okay. Committee reports. Program Agency.
Regional Program Agency Committee, we welcome Andy Cuccinello from Schoharie County as our visitor and possibly soon to be a nominee for membership. I don't know that, but who knows. I've discussed this with Andy and he's agreeable with it. Currently, Andy has done the photo ID badges for us, and as such was considered a part-time employee of the council. I recommend now that he be moved from employee status to fee-for-service status, simply because we have put that photo ID badge program on hold for budgetary reasons, and this does not indicate any loss of funds or gain of funds to Andy either, as far as that goes. But moving him from an employee status to fee-for-service means that we can straighten out our disability insurance premiums because we don't have to show him as an employee, even though he has been unfortunately totally inactive for over a year. No fault of his, state budget and so forth. So this is agreeable to Andy, and I would like to make that motion.
Second.
And that's seconded by Tom? Okay.
Motion's been made and seconded, everyone understands. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Okay, very good. Anything else on
Nothing for that.
training?
Training committee, Joycey.
The PEP registration is going slowly.
Oh,
We
can
have-
I just give you the
You may.
update? We have, I believe it's 17 now, 10 for the Johnstown site and 7 for Oneonta.
I got one more for Oneonta.
Okay, so that's 18, that's 10 and 8.
So if you are still looking to do the PEP, please get your stuff in. It's a fantastic deal. $30 for a PEP course, which includes a textbook, is a really good deal. So the other thing is I have been working on the updates for the CME standards, to the education standards. I have 2 PowerPoints for. If you remember, a couple months ago, we talked about, the training committee talked about dividing these up into 3 sessions, 3 to 3.5 hour sessions. And I have PowerPoints done for 2 of those sessions. So if anybody wants them, they're not comprehensive. It doesn't cover everything in the in the outline that we gave you, that from the old to the new. But it covers a whole lot. It's an interactive program, meaning basically many of the slides are just questions, and it allows you and the students to go back and forth on a discussion. What I've been doing, just to pep it up a little bit in the classes for the refresher students, is that I divide them into groups and let them come up with an answer, and then go back and forth that way, and so forth. It also, doing it that way, also if somebody misses the session, it allows them to take a copy of it and to actually write the answers out for you, so that they can do it on their own, and then the instructor can review it with them and so forth. So it's a whole lot easier than you having to sit down with individual people. I told the people in Hamilton County, Lower Hamilton County, that I was going to do this once, and I was not going to repeat the classes. But this way, if you have people that miss the classes, they can take these slides, they can write the answers out, and then you can review them, and it's a whole lot easier for the instructor. So we have some CDs here. If anybody wants them, please, again, also make sure that before you teach this, that you know the answers to the questions. It's sort of embarrassing to have something up there and you have no idea. So make sure you know the answers to all those questions. I don't have the answers on here. Some of them I do. Some of them I follow them with a slide with the answers on them, but many of them are not. And the other thing is that since it's not comprehensive, it doesn't cover everything in the new standards. You might want to look at what's actually in the standards versus what's in here, and if you need to add some stuff that you haven't been teaching right along, that your students wouldn't really have any idea of, that might be necessary. So anyway, if any of the instructors or the course sponsors or the counties want a copy of that, Phil has some, I have some here.
Yeah, I have a few left here too. I got 4.
And I haven't had time to do the 3rd one, but I will do the 3rd, part 3.
Joyce,
One of these
got
days.
3 left.
that's BLS transition?
This is BLS transition, yeah.
We had the opportunity, because of the rapid research that we held in January, to do an initial run at an ALS transition material, and we did it with a small group of very experienced providers also. Learned a lot from it, learned a lot how we're going to change it. Frankly, I wasn't very happy with the content or flow-wise either. We covered what needed to be covered, but there's definitely some work to be done. Once I get something on board, I'll share it with you, but our plan is to be able to do 2 of those courses this year. And are you using or recommending a textbook yet for that?
I'm using, is it Rich Beebe's textbook? I can't remember what, it's the transition textbook.
Okay. Thank you.
I didn't make the students all get a textbook, but I've been using that textbook with.
I think we're just in the infancy stages of planning this, but I think that after going through it the first time, what we're going to do from here on out is probably offered either at no cost or minimal cost to cover food or something like that. But insist that the paramedic level providers actually show up with a textbook and maybe do some pre-test material. There's a fair amount of topics that if you've been providing for a while, you just hadn't
Yeah.
seen.
The same thing as this, I've been teaching a lot of this stuff right along in my classes, so a lot of it I didn't have to cover again, but that is going to be an individual instructor seeing what they need to do for their student population. I think that's it for training.
Could I ask a quick question of Tom? How is the accelerated EMT registration coming along?
As of right now, we have interested people. We have not taken any names. The state has kicked back the application until we could provide some other documentation. Somebody had complained.
Oh, okay. I think that's what I wanted to talk to you about yesterday, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have several interested area departments, fire departments in our area are interested, but we have not obviously
We have a
started
candidate,
any registration
believe it or not, we have a
process.
candidate from up our way for it, too.
So registration has not officially taken place.
Okay. Have you heard any more from the state about progress of the approval of it or anything like that?
We are in the process of supplying the state with more documentation.
Ah, okay. Thank you. That was an honest, we didn't set that up. That was an honest question on my part, because people have asked me about it.
I'm sure you guys will get numbers for it because we put out our Saturday only EMT class for the semester, and we're at 20-something people for it. So,
If it goes.
yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Transmission standards.
Okay, on October 23rd last, information was sent to the appropriate officer of the Sharon Springs Rescue Squad relative to the COM process. On November 14th, we received a phone call saying that she had just received a mailing from October 23rd, even though it had been signed for by the fire department on October 31st. She wanted the consul to know her interest and assured us of her cooperation. On December 26th, a phone call from the village of Hancock was received relative to the municipalities acquiring the certificate of operating authority from the Hancock Rescue Squad and a simple transfer of operating authority. And I spoke with her at the time, with the lady in question at the time, that was from Sharon Springs, of course, and I explained to her what was involved. And I asked her at the time, was this a contested transfer of operating authority? And she said, I honestly don't know whether anybody objects to it. She was going to get back to me. I haven't heard any more from her, but the holidays were right at that time too. On December 27th, a call was received relative to the same type of transfer involving the Rocket Lake Volunteer Fire Department ambulance, which wishes to become an agency independent from the fire department so they can bill for service. This would be, so I'm told by the caller, an uncontested transfer of operating authority. And on January 14th, we received an email from an individual who stated that he was representing the village and town of Sydney and was seeking to form an ambulance district and a new not-for-profit corporation to serve that new district. Then he asked me a number of questions about Sydney's operations, and I assured him in a return email that Sydney would have that information, how many PCRs they generated the previous years and so forth and so on. And I sent him a copy of the Department of Health Policy 0606, and I haven't heard from him since January 14th, so I presume he's not finished reading the 30 pages of the policy. I can only presume that. With regard to uncontested transfers of operating authorities, I'm sorry, Joe Farrell and I talked a little bit. Right now, our fee policy is for CON processes $5,000 non-refundable, but for an uncontested transfer of operating authority, I would propose that we accept a reduced non-refundable fee. I think Remo charges $2,000 as a non-refundable one-time fee for uncontested transfers of operating authority. See, because you don't need a hearing officer, you don't need a public hearing, you don't need that monster mailing by certified mail, so you don't have to hire a clerk to do all that stuff. So I would recommend that we, for uncontested transfers of authority, of operating authority, we adopt a fee of $2,000 non-refundable.
What defines uncontested?
The parties in question are not do not object, and one of the parties in question does not object to it. In other words, if a fire department, if somebody wants to take a fire department's operating authority, but the fire department says, no, you shall not do it, that's contested. Then that becomes, I don't know what that becomes, to be honest with you. I presume it's the regular CON process.
What if there's another CON holder in the area? Can they contest it?
Good question. I don't know.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah.
Because both of those may or may not be contested by CMT, depending on what they're trying to do.
Gotcha. Well, stop me if I'm wrong, but I still think it's a good idea for an uncontested transfer of authority to accept a reduced fee, simply because you do not need a public hearing, you do not need the mailing, you do not have to hire a hearing officer, whether it be a lawyer or a stenographer, and that's where the expenses go.
I'm not sure a transfer of authority can be contested, can it?
No, simple transfer of operating authority can't be contested because you're just transferring an existing agency to another agency.
Right.
The only thing that has to happen in that situation is that the new agency has to go through a fitness and competency procedure, which there is no expense to the regional council.
What if you're trying to transfer from an authority or a geographical region that is larger than the municipality?
It's
that
two
is
separate issues.
Okay, because
Two
they're,
separate issues now. You don't confuse the two.
yeah,
If you're transferring a fire department-based ambulance service to a not-for-profit corporation, that's a simple transfer. What happened to Hancock, which they didn't realize, is they wanted to transfer the operating authority from the fire department. Their operating authority is the town of Hancock. They wanted to transfer that to the village of Hancock.
I see. Oh,
What Beth was talking about is if they do that, they can no longer cover the whole town.
Right.
They can only cover the village.
Village.
So they backed off on that.
Okay.
They're in the process now of investigating a not-for-profit corporation.
I did not understand that. From the phone call I received from this individual, I did not understand
Right,
that.
so when it comes to a simple transfer, it's not uncontested, it's a simple transfer of operating authority.
Yeah.
There is no,
So the
other
word,
than the fitness and competency review, if that doesn't come back positive, that's the only thing that can stop it.
What is the fee for? I mean,
They have to-
implementing a $2,000 fee for a vote?
no, there's some staff time involved.
Yes,
and,
there is a review required, there's regional counsel time required.
You have to review the fitness and competency
Yeah.
and all that stuff. Well, you're not talking about that. If the agency, fire department-based ambulance agency wants to become, its own agency, separate from the fire department, if that fire department has contracts with neighboring agencies to provide that district, now, if that agency becomes an independent,
Whatever the operating authority is, the fire department ambulance transfers over to the new agency.
even the mutual aid agreements that they,
Well, don't confuse it.
not mutual aid, I mean, but even the
If they
coverage
have
for
operating
neighboring
authority, if it's
agencies.
on their certificate, whatever on their certificate, unless it's transferred to a town or a village,
Right.
whatever on the certificate becomes the operating authority of the new entity.
no.
But be careful when you do that, because if it's owned by and operated by the village, that narrows it down to just the village. That's 122 municipal law. If you form a not-for-profit corporation, which can be run by the village, this is a separate not-for-profit corporation, that operating certificate that the fire department has transfers to the new entity.
Yeah, because here's what we did at Lowell.
So it has nothing to do with, mutual aid or anything else. Whatever on the operating certificate at the time of transfer becomes the operating authority for the new entity.
Right.
And your contract areas would contract with the new entity.
Right, yeah. Because we did it, when the village owned our fire department, then we contracted with the town, and when they became a district, then they had to change everything all over.
Right, as long as it's a not-for-profit corporation, a separate entity from the village or the town, it's just like any other ambulance. Gotta be careful though, because when you transfer, that's what Hancock, that's what put the brakes on Hancock.
right.
Because the village actually owns the ambulance service, or we think they do. They thought they did.
I think the caller, she's a very nice person, I think the caller who had worked for the village, I believe.
Yeah, she had no clue.
She did not understand what was involved.
She's a nice lady, but she had no clue.
Yeah. I got a little bit that impression with the phone call, and a lot of impression.
The mayor said, here, ambulance, and she was like, okay.
Yes.
So, no, that's the problem, and that's where it has come to a halt, because they now have to decide whether or not they want to, for the number of calls we do, and I think that's probably a good idea, how many calls, whether or not they want to go through the process of operating it.
Right. The gentleman who called me about Racket Lake was an attorney from the firm that Racket Lake had contracted with a while back to look into this. And he said he had been handed it from another attorney who I spoke with last summer, and nothing in the meantime until this December 27th. And he said he wasn't even sure if Racket Lake still wanted to go through with it. Racket Lake is a very small agency. They do about 12 to 15 calls a year. And they want to become a paid service. And he himself questioned that. I was very non-committal, but he himself questioned that to me. He says, I don't know why they want to become a paid service. But I haven't heard any further. You know.
So, again, you said it was the Hancock Village that called?
Yeah, I believe it was the village clerk or the deputy clerk who I spoke
Yeah,
with.
village clerk.
Village clerk was at her job.
About transferring to a not-for-profit? Bill?
She said the municipality, the village, I guess she meant, wanted to acquire the certificate from the Hancock Rescue Squad.
What the village wants to do is take over the ambulance service. They want to transfer the ambulance. They're under the mistaken impression that the village owns the ambulance service, the operating certificate, which is not the case, but that's a whole other issue. They wanted the village to take over the ambulance, the operation of the ambulance as the village, which they can do if they want. But the operating authority, as it stands right now, is the town of Hancock. If the village takes it over, they'll be limited to doing calls just in the village of Hancock. And that's 122B, that's the municipality code. If they form a not-for-profit corporation, which can be run by the village, but it's a separate entity, then the transfer of operating authority to the town of Hancock just goes over to the new entity.
Right, this is, yeah, that follows other things that are going on, like Town of Columbus, Town and Berlin.
Right.
And then, who did you say called from Sydney?
Gentleman, I don't have his name here, but...
Jason Gray.
I do.
Okay, a gentleman was hired, he said he was hired to represent the village and town of Sydney to form an ambulance district and a new not-for-profit corporation to serve that new district. And then he asked me a number of questions which he really should have gotten right from the Sydney Emergency Squad itself. They would have the answers to that.
They don't have
There's
You know,
a little political intrigue going on there.
I got that impression.
Very similar to the town of Berlin.
Is that right?
Yeah. You probably don't want that.
I know, you're right, I don't. My stock response is to send everybody a copy of the CON policy, which is 34 pages in length, and I figure that will calm them right down. So if there is,
This individual has reported himself to be an expert.
this guy says he's an expert?
We'll let it go with that.
I almost got the impression he wanted me to fill out the application form, to be honest with you. Yeah. I did get that impression.
I mean, that's 25,000 to spend on it.
Yeah, I know. He wants to kick up. Anyway, I'm not going to do that. It's not my problem. They have to do 32.
So, in any event, I would propose this reduced fee for simple transfer of operating authority, and I'm open to your input. Because right now, our fee policy is right across the board for anything that partakes of the CON process or any part of it is $5 grand non-refundable. I'm not proposing that we change that, but that we reduce it for a simple transfer of operating authority. So what's your thoughts?
I don't see anything wrong with that.
We do have some expenses for a simple transfer of operating authority, because technically, if we don't discuss it at a regular meeting, we have to call a special meeting for it. So we do have a meeting expense, and yeah, this is a little less than half the cost actually for the full shot. I would make that motion that we reduce fee for simple transfer of operating authority, $2,000 non-refundable. I would make that motion.
Is that a second?
Do I have a second?
Yeah.
Oh, Don? Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay. That's my report, sir. We're now to state council reports.
If you want the, Mary found the law.
It's already
about
been forwarded.
The first responder.
It's in his inbox.
It's in his inbox.
It's in his inbox.
It's
Okay,
in the aarems at
Very
frontiernet.net
good.
inbox already.
That's
anyway,
one of these days I have to get a smartphone.
one of these days.
The phone I have
You
is,
got both the long version and the summary version.
but the phone I have is smarter than I am right now, and it's a simple phone, so. Thank you, one and all. No state council report because the state council next meets on January 29th and 30th. In Troy. It's Troy they meet in, Mary, isn't it?
Yes.
Or Joe? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Regional
Program director's meeting?
Nothing to report, they haven't met yet.
Program updates?
No program updates for me. Do you have any program updates, Joyce? Joyce, do you have any program updates?
I don't think so.
No, okay.
All right, REMAC report?
REMAC met today and approved the minutes of November the 15th, 2012. We approved new medical directors for Davenport, Grand Gorge, Milford, Otsego, and Flinders Corners. We approved DLS albuterol and glucometry from Margaretville. We approved the reciprocal agreement with Susquehanna, who has now adopted the same protocol, apparently. CLIA waivers, renewals were signed. We had a discussion about furosemide relative to only on the fire department, but that engendered a bigger discussion about a huge number of drugs that are in short supply or no longer available. And we prepared a list and alternative solutions to those shortages.
Unless you want it, when you have it.
We discussed the authority of the agency medical director to change formulary within an agency, and it was clarified that the directors may, with REMAC approval, add 2 formularies, but may not drop below the minimum specified, protocol-specified formulary. We clarified that only agency vehicles may transport controlled substances, whether they're restocking or replacing. Yeah, that submitted their annual MFI report, and that was well received. Signed on by their medical director. And Stanford EMS has a controlled license. This is informational, and their medical director, Dr. Markowitz, is aware of that. We had an executive session, and that was it.
We also approved the acquisition of more than 10 agencies by a service medical director.
Right, we had discussed that in the past, and with REMAC approval, grant physicians who are in short supply to be medical directors to exceed otherwise specified limited and so on.
Okay, anything else?
That's it.
Alrighty. County reports, Delaware?
Not much going on, business as usual. Did have an interesting faux pas with our last state exam in November. It turns out the exams never made it to Manhattan until the first week in January. And the state is blaming it solely on the post office, but not sure how that transpires, but we eventually did get the test results within a week of the state finding that they hadn't made it to the contractor yet in the city, so.
Okay. Otsego County.
Business as usual, I think.
Harry?
Nobody here from Scary. What we have, actually, we have Andy here from
Andy here.
Scary. Could you give us a report on what's happening in Scary County?
Nothing big's going on in Schoharie, but the one bit of news is Bill Averill, middle of next month, middle of February, is officially retired from EMS. Right now he's unofficially retired. Next month he's officially retired.
Please.
Thank you. Scary? That was Scary, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Bill. Montgomery County.
Training opportunities, February, actually the end of this month, January 21st, 25th, 8th, and February 4th is EMT Corps for anybody who's looking for an EMT refresher.
Is that February 1st, did you say, Tom?
January 21st
Okay.
is day 1, 28th is day 2, and February 4th is day 3 with BLS Skills Day
Okay.
on the 25th of January. PHTLS is going to be held on February 5th and 19th. And we also, sometime in February, I don't know the exact date, we'll send it to you. We are doing the EMT update for our marathon day.
Bolton?
Nothing new.
I'd like to say something. We just had an AMLS class down at JVAC where we certified 4 new AMLS instructors. Somebody from the affiliated faculty came up with some mobile life. So now we have 4 AMLS instructors at JVAC where we can plan on doing a class every now and then.
Excellent.
Hamilton?
Waiting for snowmobilers to crash.
They haven't done that yet?
I have done it. I have done it.
We lost one ATV into the lake, but that's all.
Yeah, we had an
That's
ATV going to the lake right
progress.
after Christmas. I believe law enforcement was never contacted for some strange reason.
Was there ice on the lake?
No, there was no ice on it.
Okay. I had to ask.
It was a holiday. It was a holiday.
Someone was a little bit too neat. Okay. Any old business? New business? New business?
There's no shanty that was growing usually.
No other business? Could we have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to move.
All right.
By 13:37. We next meet on February 21st. Happy Valentine's Day.
Yes. Everyone have a safe trip?
No, because